Hello and welcome back after 2 months almost to N+1 videos of MvvmCross, and I'm going to try and kick back into this, and I'm going to kick back into it gently because I can't remember how it works, and I'm going to start by just talking about maps. So let's just start with a simple maps example and show that up and running. And so what I'm going to do is, as ever, I'm going to create a Visual C# Windows portable class library. I'm going to create it in my normal N+1 directory, and it's going to be called N37, and it's N37 maps. And I'm just going to start, as I say, with a small example, and then I'll try and grow it over the next couple of videos. So let's create mapit.core, and we'll create our normal things. This may change soon, this dialog, but it may change to Windows Phone 8 only, but for now we'll keep going. And so we start off and hopefully create in, and it creates our empty thing. We delete class 1, we add our NuGet packages, and I'll just add my local ones because they're to hand for MvvmCross. And then we also are going to go to create a new project, and we'll create an iOS project. And let's create an iPhone project, hello world, and call this mapit dot, and we'll call this one touch. Not sure why it's doing that nowadays, but it is. We will then add a reference from mapit.touch to mapit.core, and we can then actually, just do the final step of adding the NuGet packages for MvvmCross to this client. And then once we've done that, we should just have this app delegate copy across to the other one. And then at this point we do have an app that actually builds. So if we built it, I'm not going to update my documentation, but if we build this now, it should tell us that it builds and everything succeeds. So let's just make it to an iPhone simulator, and there'll probably be a build configuration to make sure it actually does run. Yeah. Okay, so at this point we've got an empty hello world app, and what we want to do is change that to be a bit more mappy. So let's go into first ViewModel, and let's create another object. And so this object is going to be a simple location object, public class location, and let's allow this to change. So what we'll do is we'll inherit it from a notify property changed, and let's give it two properties, a double, which is its lat, and another double, which won't surprise you at all as it's long. If you're not familiar with maps and lats and longs, then there are plenty of other sites to read up about them, but basically lat is your y and long is your x, even though so it's always said y comma x, but that's the way it's set up. So that's a location, and then let's also set up another class. Let's have a class that is a zombie, because every project needs a zombie. And again, let's inherit this one from notify property change so it can change. And every zombie needs a name, so let's just do that as a changeable name. And every zombie needs a location, so let's just put that in there. So that's going to be our simple class. It's a zombie which is going to have a location and a name. And then in our view model, let's just have two zombies. So what I'll do is I'll have a zombie, which is zombie, what should we call our female zombie? Will be called Helen, and our male zombie will be called Keith. So that's our view model. Let's just create a constructor and initialize Helen and Keith. So Helen equals new zombie, and let's obviously the name of this zombie is Helen, and the location is somewhere near me, so location, and I think I can use something like lat equals 51.4 and long equals something like 0.4. It's something like that. I'm probably miles out. That's Helen, and then let's do Keith. And so that's going to be 51.5 and 0.3, say, so they're a little bit apart. So that's Helen and Keith initialized, and that's our view model. So we can build the core. That should build without any problems. Let's just add a command to, so let's add an imvx command, and this is going to be move command. And what we'll do in this is we will return new MvvmCross command, and what we'll do is just move both. So Keith dot location equals new location, and let's do lat equals Keith dot location dot lat plus 0.1. And long equals long. So let's just make Keith move along a bit. And let's also in there make Helen move. So Helen.location is going to be, let's make sure I change both of those. Helen.location.lat, she's going to move down the screen, minus. So those are our, that's our command. It should still build. And now in mapit.touch we should be able to do something like that in the UI. So let's just make sure it still builds. Hopefully it will. No, it won't now because we've got a problem in our first view. So let's change our first view. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the view to be a MK map view. Now if you've never used map views before in iOS, which many of you won't, then MK is mapkit, so that's what all the classes start with, and a map view is a general map view. So we're putting this here as the background for our entire page. There's some really good introductions to map views. The one that I always tend to use is the one called Monotouch Map Views 101, followed by 102 and followed by 103, which was by Craig, also known as Concept Dev. And they're like 4 years old now, these tutorials, but they're still the best tutorials around that I follow every time. So they're out there. But basically what you do is you set up a map view and then you give the map view a delegate. And the delegate is the thing that actually controls it. So let's just create our delegate. Public class my delegate. And this is going to be MK map view delegate. And this is obviously where you can override things if you need to in order to put things in there. And so what we do is we do view, so actually we'll have to create a var map view equals that, view equals map view, and then we'll also do map view dot delegate equals a new my delegate. So it's all okay so far. This is how it's all set up. Now what I'd like to do is I'd like to have a button. So let's add it. Button equals new UI button, and we'll give that a type of, so it's a UI button type, rounded rect while they still exist in this iOS 7 world. We'll give the button a frame, top there, and we'll give the button a title, and this is going to be move. So we add the button to our screen. This is all code you've seen lots before in the previous N+1s, and I'm just remembering how it works. And then we'll bind the button's touch up inside to the ViewModel's move command. So that should all work. That seems to be fine. So we've got that, but what we haven't got at the moment is we haven't got our two annotations. Now for this at the moment I'm not going to bind the annotations dynamically. We'll do that with a group in either this tutorial or probably a later one. But for now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take just the two basic Keith and what they call Keith and Helen, and I'm going to put them onto our map manually, as it were. So to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get hold of the typed view model. So this is first view model, and I'll just do that by casting. Obviously I have to do that after the view did load, otherwise the view model won't be available. So we'll cast it there, and we'll do a first, and that's casting the view model property. And then once we've done that, we've got Keith and Helen. So what I'm going to do is, what I want to do is I want to take the map, I want to add some annotations to it. So to do that, what you do is you do MapView.add annotation, and you need to pass it an MK annotation. So let's add an MK annotation. And so this is going to be a public class zombie annotation. And an annotation, if you like, is like the logic behind a pin on the screen. It's not the view for the pin, it's the logic behind the view. And we're going to have obviously our view model logic behind that logic as well, just to give it another layer. So we're going to put this in here as an MK annotation. It's going to tell us it wants a constructor, so it always wants a method, and the thing it wants is a coordinate. So we'll just set it up like that for now. And we'll obviously also give it a constructor. So what we're going to do is give it a constructor, and that's going to take a zombie as the underlying object. And so we'll do private read only. I should have done this by resharper. Zombie underscore zombie. And we also really would like to subscribe to location events on there. What you can do instead of this, if you really want to, is you can do it using bindings. We'll have a go at that. And so what I'll do, so just correct a typo that I've seen up there, is I will create this binding based on Helen, and then I will I'll map it to coordinates. So it'll take a little bit to do, but we'll do it in a moment. So let's just do that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a zombie. So var Helen annotation equals new. So this is going to be our zombie annotation for Helen. So this is the first view model.Helen. And I'll create another one, which is going to be for Keith. And then I'll add both of those to my map. Helen annotation and Keith annotation. Now what I want to do is I want to bind the locations of these guys. So I'm going to come down here, and in my binding set I'm going to bind them. So I've got my Helen annotation, and what I'd like to do is I'd like to bind for this annotation, I'd like to bind its, let's call it a settable. Let's call it location. Actually, let's just give it a location to, and that's going to be to the view models, and this is going to be the view models.Helen.location. So that's what I'm going to bind. I'm going to do the same thing for Keith. Yeah, and you could use value converters and things, but for now all I'm going to do is I'm going to add this property location to my zombie annotation. And what this should allow me to do, and this is going to be a location from our view model side, is when I what I'd like to do is I'd like to convert here between the location that we've got on our view model and our client location that we've got, which is our CL call location as it is in MapView. We want to use that to actually control what's going to be on the screen. So what I'm going to do is when we get our location, I'm actually going to return a new location, which is going to be coordinate I don't have to do this because we're actually not going to do any two-way for now, but I'm going to do it just to show you what I would do. So this is going to be coordinate.latitude and long equals coordinate.longitude. So if you were, for example, dragging pins, then you'd want to do this. But for now, you know, it's just like, well, why is he doing this? And I'm sorry, it's probably not going to make that much sense to you, this particular part. But instead of that, the bit that we do care about is setting our coordinate. So to do this, what we're going to do is we are going to do coordinate equals, and we're going to set it from the value that comes in. So the value is going to be a location, and we can use this using, it's going to be a new core location. It wants the lat and long passed to it. So value.lat, value.long, and that is how our coordinate gets set. Now, to actually update the UI, you have to do something which is a bit odd, which is you have to do a will change value, and you pass in lowercase coordinate, and then afterwards you have to pass a did change value coordinate, and that will tell you, that just tells the underlying map that this iOS, this Objective-C property, is going to change. So it's a bit unusual, but that's the way it's done. So this guy here, this override, is purely for iOS to use, and this guy is for us to play with. So that's all set up, the binding's all set up. The only thing we haven't done is in the delegate, there's a method called override get. There's a method called, see if I can pull it up using IntelliSense. Override. It's not going to help me IntelliSense today. So the method I'm looking for is something to do with pins. So it's a get view for pin. Okay, it's not going to tell me what it is, so I'm going to try and tease it out of it using F12. Navigate to metadata view, please. And so this is a get. This is the one I'm looking for. I'm looking for a get view for annotation. So we're going to override that, public override, get view for annotation. And what we know is we are always going to return a zombie annotation for this. So let us just start for now by just using a pin for a zombie. And you can, if you want to use a MapView.dq reusable annotation and pass in, you know, do I already have a zombie that I could use, please? We will just test to see whether that is an MK pin annotation view. And if pin equals null, then you have to create one. So you just do that by doing var, in fact it's just pin equals new, and you do MK pin annotation view. You pass in the annotation you want it to have, and you pass in the name, which is zombie again, for the reuse. Otherwise, if you've got a pin, then it's pin.annotation equals MapView, annotation that's been passed to us as a parameter. And then we can give the pins colors. So let's just test. So var zombie annotation. You could, for example, change the pin color depending on what the zombie was. So let's just cast it across. We know it's a zombie annotation. And then zombie annotation dot. I don't know if we actually exposed the zombie. No, we didn't. So let's just expose it. Encapsulate field. A read-only property called zombie. So there it is. So what we'll do for now is if zombie annotation dot zombie. So we haven't actually got like a female or a male on there. Let's add a zombie gender to us. So each zombie is now going to have a PMVX bool is male. And we're just going to add that to our Helen one. not to our Helen one, to our Keith one. Is male equals true on Keith. Right, so now we've got a way of telling what our zombie is. So if it's male, we'll give it this pin. We'll make the pin color equal to, oops, it's mk pin color dot purple. Otherwise, pin dot pin color equals red. So there is our pins. There's our zombie annotations. And what we'd like to do is just return that pin back. So that's our entire map hooked up. Our delegate knows how to return views for these zombies. Our location knows how to set itself from binding. And I believe that should build, so let's just find out. Looks like I've added an extra curly brace in my typing. See if that builds. Okay, so it's got a problem at the moment because it needs to have this mono version of system.windows, which is there. If you don't find it in your framework, have a look around. I don't know quite where it turns up, but mine turns up in recent at the moment on system.windows. It is a system.windows shim DLL that's being created by the Mono team. And it replaces the one that we used to use for MvvmCross. So hopefully you'll get that running. Okay, so that now builds. Let's just see whether it works. If we set this as the startup project, and then we debug and start new. And apart from the fact that my Mac has gone to sleep, it should hopefully go over to the Mac. Right, so I'm going to set up my VNC viewer. Hopefully it's still on that address. It's been a while since I did this. And what we should see, okay, it's already started over there, so we're just waiting to connect. Hopefully it's coming up. So what we should see when this does connect, and you should be able to get this across, is you can see my iPhone and you can see my map. Now if we scroll across, hopefully you can see a couple of pins there. We might have to zoom in so you can see them both. And I did forget my Latin long because that's not quite where I am. But you can see here is Keith and here is, oops, seems to have lost my mouse. Here is Keith, and have I lost everything? Oops, sorry, got a distraction there in the background. So we should see the two pins, and you can see how they are zoomed out at the moment. And if we hit move, then hopefully you can see them move. Now, it wasn't the smoothest move in the world, so if we wanted to make that a bit smoother, what you can do is you can use animation to do that. So let's just come back in here, and what we're going to do is instead of just setting the coordinate, we'll use some animation to do it. So UIView.animate will take, I don't know, a second to do it, which is quite slow for an animation really, and then the action of the animation will be that. Yeah, we probably shouldn't do this first time, so let's just, no, okay, we'll just do it, it'll be fine. We also have some issues with the initial layout of the map, so let's just do that as well. So MapView dot set, there's a region I think I could use, set region, and what we can do for this, and these are all sorts of things you can learn and read up about, but you can create an MK coordinate region from a map rect, and what we'll do is we'll do that, a new MK map rect, and so we want, okay, I don't want that one either, let's do it from the other one, which was from a distance. So we want to create a center coordinate, and to do that, let's just center this on Keith to start with. So this is going to be Keith. It's going to be first ViewModel.Keith. Okay, Helen's come up first. .location.lat. And first ViewModel, oops, comma. First ViewModel dot Helen.location.long. and then we'll say, so this is a distance in meters, and we'll just say give us 20 kilometers around, please. So that then, let's just see what it's complaining about. And then it's just saying that after that I'd like to know whether to do it animated, and the answer is yes please do. Okay, so there's my brackets sorted out. So that should then give us a nicer effect when we start up. So let's see whether that does. And so we'll run it up again. And we'll watch. Hopefully it's deploying. Here goes the map. And when it first starts up, the animation may be a bit jerky on this video. Okay, it wasn't very good at all. But you can see we're now zoomed into the area we're most interested to. And if we hit move, you can use the Alt key if you need to on the map. You can't do it on virtual. But you can use the Alt key to get touch areas like this on the real map. And that then means when you then hit move, we should hopefully see an animation occur. The animation's really smooth on a real device, it's not so good on this guy. So I'm going to leave it there and come back to the same example in the next N+1. But that is a very basic getting a map up and running using annotations and pins. Actually no, let's just do one more thing. I'm not going to quite leave it there. If we create a zombie, so if I go to paint.net and do file new, and let's create a zombie which is going to be 60 by 60, which is probably big enough for our terms. And what I'm going to do is get rid of all of that, and then I'd just like to use my paintbrush, and this is going to be my zombie. Let's make him particularly zombie-like. Here's my zombie. Brains. I'm a big fan of Plants vs Zombies. So here's my zombie's head, and then he probably needs a bit of blood to be realistic. So again, I seem to be losing my mouse a bit. So let's get some blood on this zombie. Right, so there's my zombie. File, save as. This is going to be a zombie, and it's going to save into projects 2, N+1, and N37 maps. Goes into maps, and we'll save it into there. So it's going to be a zombie PNG. Done. Then what we should be able to do is in our solution, stop it running, add that zombie as an item, and it should get added as content straight away. Content. And then what we should be able to do is use that in our view. So what we're going to do is, instead of returning a pin annotation view, we're just going to return an annotation view, and what we're going to do is pin.image equals UI image dot from file, and this is going to be just zombie.png. You have to get the capitalization right with this because you are deploying via a Unix box, as it were. Unfortunately, you can't then do the switch later on the color, but you could change the image. And you can, if you want to, tell it, that you don't want to use the center of it. You would like to use the center offset equals new point f. And I think if you then use if you then were to use 0.0 and -30, and I think that will tell it to use the bottom middle. I might have that wrong. I think that will tell it to use the bottom middle for where the zombie should be. Okay, so if we just run that through, then I think that will actually give us 2 zombies on the screen. So hopefully that's going to deploy. Run out. There are 2 zombies in all their glory. That art is available if you need it. And if you move, then those zombies don't move. So that's it. That's the end of this first N+1 coming back. I will try and do a bit more on maps in the next couple, including going across to Droid, and maybe going across to Windows as well, although Windows and maps is pretty well documented. So what I'll try and do in the next one is to do a collection of zombies, and perhaps then also do your position among the zombies. So I hope that's good. I hope it's not gone too badly. Standard N+1, it didn't go perfect. Yeah, welcome back.